That's one small step for an aardvark, one giant leap for my comic review series, Sanctuary of Reality. Take a lunar stroll with Church and State, Chapter 56, beginning Subbook 7, called Walking on the Moon, in Cerebus, issue 107. The Judge. Cerebus drifts in lunar orbit off the tip of the tower and floats onto the surface of the moon. He lands, sort of, hovering just barely off the surface of it, and finds himself in front of a man who calls himself the Judge. He's omniscient, knowing exactly who Cerebus is, and is a little disappointed in the fact that the first person he's speaking to in hundreds of thousands of years is not President Weishaupt. The Judge, always answering questions without Cerebus having to speak them aloud, claims not to be Taram, but explains the many names he's been known by over the years. He's done nothing but observe and judge for many years, which is what he was placed there to do. The Judge talks about certain patterns in civilization that he's noticed, and points out the first word of each society is always "gimme," which he finds funny, but it's lost on Cerebus, to which he bemoans Weishaupt would have loved it. He states the dinosaurs were wiped out by hairspray, and the great walking redwoods were destroyed by an exploding salt bomb, which leads to a great flood every 12,000 years. And after every great flood, the survivors turn religious, which is boring for the Judge. He then leads Cerebus elsewhere to show him something. On the way, he explains he'll answer the questions Cerebus has now, and will return to the discussion of meaningful issues later. First, he claims Cerebus will never conquer the world. He'll get close, but he'll never get closer. This crushes Cerebus's hopes for an Aardvarkian empire. Next, he reveals that Fred, Ethel, and the little fellow with the hair remains floating in space for years until they re-enter Earth's atmosphere and burn up. Third question is answered, stating that the moon is not Vanaheim after all. It's just a dead, airless hunk of rock, and heaven is just a fable. As Cerebus follows, he begins to bounce about via the low gravity, and soon loses control. How will the Judge react? Despite claiming not to be Taram, later on it'll be stated pretty definitively that the Judge is Taram, or at least is the basis for the religious deity that so many worship. But then what is the basis for Taram? I suspect and presume that it's the big round glowing white strange thing, but we'll get into all that later. This is an interesting issue. Cerebus never actually speaks. I think because of the airlessness of the moon, it makes it so he can't speak, although the Judge has no problem. But actually, it's more because the Judge, his omniscience, makes it so he's constantly answering everything Cerebus is going to say before he even gets a chance to say it. So the whole issue is basically the Judge giving an extended monologue, one that continues into the next couple of issues. The Judge happens to be based on a character from the Jules Feiffer play Little Murders. Physically, he's actually based on Lou Jacoby's performance and portrayal of the Judge character from that play, from the movie version of the play. I actually rented the movie version of Little Murders a few years back after having read these appearances, and the Judge part of the movie is very memorable. I can see why it inspired Dave to include this. I know Jules Feiffer is one of his favorite writers, and I didn't really enjoy the movie. It wasn't really my cup of tea, but the Judge part was the definite standout, and as it should be. It was in, and I find the judge here to be very memorable, very fun. Actually, he's got a unique personality to the series. Though, as I'll get into in the next couple of reviews, take everything he says with a grain of salt. He may be omniscient, but he's not, I don't know, omnipotent. Next time, the fourth question is revealed.